What's up everybody, KleverKrok back for another week of the GTA Season 4, and it is week 9, I believe. Should probably verify that. We are covering week 9, I believe. But I should be sure before I say such things, and we are! Yes. Week 9. It's been a long season, but a good one, and I got another good batch of matches to talk about this week. Flying it solo this time around, but hopefully we'll have some analyst joining us next week. But we'll go ahead and jump straight into it. So this first match is between the Cincinnati Charizards and Zubatman, and honestly, it seems pretty evenly matched as far as team comp goes. I really like Sharpedo here, because it's able to kind of rival Mega Pinsir's role. Empoleon's good here. What else? Victini is also a really good option here. And it appears as Zapdos gets free Volt Switch for days here. So other than that, we'll go ahead and start the match. I will say that in this match, Victini really is able to put in a lot of work, being a mixed attacker this time around, which I think he's done that a number of times this season, and it's worked really well for him. Victini definitely is able to penetrate the defenses that Chansey and Empoleon bring to the table, and it really puts a lot of pressure on David to have to make some more risky plays. And so, you know, having mixed really worked for Victini this week. Empoleon is just a good check for a lot of the Pokemon, though. I mean, Chestnut's the only thing that really does work against the Empoleon, but even that, I mean, it's not necessarily like something you want to switch in on because of Scald. So, and as you can tell, what happens here is I'm pretty sure it gets burned. Yep. So there you go. Now he's in trouble. Switching in on that was a bit risky considering Scald. Would have been better to switch into something like, well, honestly, the Espeon, just because of Magic Bounce, and it's the least useful in this scenario. But it's still able to put in some work by kind of wearing down the Zapdos, and it kind of just gets worn down here. That burn just wrecks it. The Rocky Helmet on Empoleon was a nice touch as well. Going for the Leech Seed, though, also is a pretty good play as far as the Chestnut went a couple turns ago on the Zapdos, expecting the Volt Switch. But overall, it was a really well played match on both sides, and it being really close. But Pinsir was allowed to set up, and it just rips through. Now I was surprised, honestly, that Espeon lived that attack from Mega Pinsir, but I guess he just had some bulk investment, expecting that matchup to happen, and so that ended up working out as far as putting damage in on him goes. I would have honestly, right there, knowing that he was going to be able to outspeed and just tear into him. Fire Punch is a bit weird because Stone Edge is stab and it does better, and Rock Slide's even better in that scenario. But I would have gone for Rocks, because setting up Rocks there would have ended up just putting in a lot of work there, because then Pinsir can't come back in. But Houndoom was also really well used here, bringing the Sucker Punch this week, which I thought was pretty awesome. And then Sharpedo gets kind of walled by Empoleon, because Empoleon just really walls Sharpedo in general. So really interesting. I wouldn't have gone for the Protect, because at that point it wasn't really useful to do that. So I'm not really sure what he was trying to burn his time for. He could have gone for a couple waterfalls there, because he wasn't going to get any more speed boosts, and he outspeeds everything on his team. So doing that, I guess he was waiting for the Destiny Bond to trigger. That was a really cool play there, because Empoleon was a really important Pokemon in this match, but the only downside is that obviously it was just a little too late for it to work out that way. But either way, it was, again, a really close match. I mean, it could have really gone either way, especially had, Chestnut got burned earlier and, the Sharpedo just hammering down against the Empoleon. But regardless, it was a really well-fought match, and it was really exciting to watch. So next, we'll go ahead and go on to the match between the Wobbuffets and Felidae. And this match was also really close and really intense and just really fun to watch. So we'll go ahead and jump into it, because as far as team comp goes, there's a major fire weakness on Felidae's side, and there are resistances for it, but Magmortar really loves this team. Kyurem really loves this team. Mandibuzz does pretty good here too as far as team comp goes. So let's see, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, here going for the switcheroo was interesting, but it wasn't worth sacrificing one of your Pokemon, especially Whimsicott, which is a really good way of disrupting his team, especially when he has Stallmons like Gliscor and Mandibuzz. So losing that early is just kind of a problem. Dazzling Gleam was an interesting choice here. Pursuit Trap was a nice play on Felidae's part. I think he set up a little bit too early with the Zygarde. And I mean, other than that, especially I think the biggest thing with Coil Zygarde is that it probably wasn't the best play with Kyurem Black still being around, because Scarf Kyurem just rips through that with Ice Beam. But also, I think Latios wasn't used to its potential in this match. I think it had a lot of ways it could have really changed the match completely. I'm not really understanding also the reason for sacking off Ferrothorn there, because Ferrothorn's a really good answer for Kyurem Black, for, well, maybe kind of Gliscor, but he's able to take out some important threats, and he takes a huge hit here, which I would have at that point just gone for Crunch, but so getting rid of the rocks actually ended up being kind of nice, but I don't know if it really mattered all that much. Losing Blastoise was a big deal, so he lucked out there in my opinion. And then the bulk of Mandibuzz still walls out Gyarados. At this point, I would have gone for another Dragon Dance, because at this point he's just getting walled out and PP's getting drained. Now he did get the flinch there, which was lucky, and he has to go into Kyurem Black to take a hit. Oh, that's when he did it. Yeah, so he did what I was thinking he would do. I haven't watched this match in a while, and unfortunately, Kyurem Black was able to come in and finish off the sweep. The one thing that I was mentioning about Latios not meeting its full potential is Calm Mind was interesting, and it had some good potential, but not having any moves to handle dark types when Mandibuzz is a really strong Pokemon. Like having, I think, Psyshock and Psychic is a bit unnecessary. I would have gone for one or the other, in my opinion. And especially since you have Calm Mind, you'd still be able to handle both sides of bulk with whichever way you chose. So I'm not sure if doing that was the best way, because he could have brought Draco Meteor Dragon Pulse instead, and would have been able to kind of break through the bulk of Mandibuzz, which ultimately is what stalled this game out, because I think Felidae definitely could have won this match. But Wobbuffets played really well, and they used their players to their potential, and Mandibuzz was able to wall out in the end, and that really worked out for them, that Latios wasn't prepared for something like that. So So that was it for that match. As you can see, it was a 1-0, so it was still really close. It was just unfortunate the way it ended. We'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is between the Kentucky Krookodiles and the Richmond Rykos. As far as the team comp goes, the Rykos have a really, really strong team. Again, one of the things he has to deal with here is the predictability of his team. It's still a really strong build, so it's hard to team build. As the coach of the Krookodiles, I really had, questioned whether I should bring Honchkrow, which I ultimately didn't do, as you can tell. But I really needed to have the immunities and bulk to handle hits from Serp and Volcanion, which is why I brought Intimidate Arcanine, who can, fake Flash Fire, and, it handles, or it walls out Scizor. It also helps wall out the Superior, kind of. Assault Vest Tornadus is good for the Superior, and then obviously Skarmory is good as well for walling out the Superior, kind of, if it's not Hidden Power Fire, Landorus and Scizor. And then Vaporeon just completely walls Volcanion. Jolteon was just something I thought I needed as far as speed goes, and really needed to take advantage of my speed difference. And then Gardevoir hits everything pretty hard, obviously except for the Scizor, which is a problem, but I was definitely going to bring that because I needed some more just hard-hitting Mons given the opportunity to set up or whatever. So we'll go ahead and start the match. Scizor again looks pretty good in this match against Tornadus and Gardevoir, but I had a few resistances for that, so I feel like I ended up having a better team comp for this match than I thought I would. I really thought I was going to struggle there, but regardless, we'll go ahead and start the match. I really feel like I was able to pull off just taking advantage of my various immunities, and like in Water Absorb and in my Skarmory with flying, obviously, and so being able to kind of pivot back and forth between my Mons, like you can see here, trying to get into a scenario that fits me well. I did risk the burn here, thinking he would go for Steam Eruption, but he didn't, obviously expecting me to go back into Vaporeon, which I ended up doing again with pivoting. I did, at some point later on, as you'll see, I'll use Will-O-Wisp, hoping that he would switch, or either keep it in or switch into something else, not Clefable. But I was like, it's not the end of the world if that happens. I can still switch out, and Clefable won't be a problem all that much, because I have Vaporeon. I have Vaporeon, but I also have Jolteon, as you can see, who's able to come in and kind of switch back into something else, like, which I was surprised at. That was a nice play with the Clefable using T-Wave when I was switching out with my Jolteon, but yeah, going for Will-O-Wisp there, I was expecting him to switch, because there's not really any offensive moves that Clefable will be able to use against an Arcanine, especially a bulky variant like mine. I did bring the Whirlwind to make sure that the Clefable couldn't just set up on me. So, but yeah, there were some important crits and hacks later on. I think we'll see that soon. Keeping rocks up, I think, was also crucial. But here I get my opportunity with going into with Whirlwind, knowing he'll either switch out or go for Defog to get a free switch into Gardevoir, and I get up a substitute, and then I just start tossing out. Now the crit here, one could argue it was pivotal. I would say because Hyper Voice without the crit would do something like 60%, I would argue that it still wouldn't have mattered in the long run, because it didn't have leftovers at that point, and he wouldn't have had a turn to heal, so it still would have been and I calced it, it would have been enough for Tornadus to still take it out with Hurricane. So in that scenario, I feel like it wouldn't have made much of a difference, but it was still a very unfortunate crit on his end. So I will admit that it did facilitate that. I was able to get free damage off of Scizor while having the substitute still up, and then I obviously switched into Skarmory because I was able to just, it walls Scizor too well. I get my rocks up again, and then obviously I switch into Vaporeon and just kind of stall out the Volcanion. As you can see, he switches into Landorus, probably going just for something that'll do damage. I still wasn't sure if it was Scarfed or not, which is why I switched out at the beginning of the game from Jolteon, because I wasn't sure, which it turned out it wasn't, but I ended up, at this point, I think it was, I switched out and he went for, what did he go for? He went into Landorus. I think he goes for knockoff maybe? So he goes for knockoff, I think. And I go for Hurricane. Well, I guess I don't know what he went for. So yeah, the confusion ended up working, which is a 50-50 thing. So yeah, that was a little bit of hacks too. He would have been able to get some damage off on Torn, but at this point also I would say that he would have even got, unless he had Stone Edge and was going to use that, he wouldn't have been able to take me out there. The burn also from the Heat Wave was also some more hacks, so it was just one thing after another, and I can really, see that. I think the Scizor probably would have without the burn. Had I also not got the confuse stuff on the Landorus earlier, I think it would have been enough to take out Scizor, and I would have had to switch into like Skarmory or something to take the hit. It would have been really weakened though. He would have had to roost and stuff, and I could have just tossed it out. And so yeah, right here, I mean, Torn just kind of sweeps the rest of it. Without Torn, had that scenario I was just describing occurred, it would have been more challenging because that was my main answer for Superior. But having Hidden Power Ice on my Specs Jolteon, which would still outspeed, and then having Extreme Speed on my Arcanine, I was hopeful that it would be enough to like take, at least one Pokemon out, like Mega Scizor or Superior had that situation come to it. So it would have been a very close match had I not got, hacks. I'm not sure how it would have ended up turning out in that scenario, but in this way, yeah, some unfortunate hacks, but it ended the way it ended, and it was still a really good game. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is between the Maple Grove Gengars and Felidae. I believe that's next. Yes. And so I still think that there's a wall core issue going on with the Gengars team. Obviously Mega Steelix walls pretty hard on the front end, but Vileplume, though it's specially defensive, I don't know if it's being run as a tank, and it also still, there's just a big fire weakness, and Crawdon doesn't really like taking hits, and that's the only thing that resists fire that was brought. Luckily in this scenario, there's no fire types that he has to worry about that were brought, but it was possible. Torterra is actually pretty good here, considering it's a pretty good wall for the likes of Marowak and Steelix. It can take out the Crawdon as well. But I don't feel like Steelix really does anything for this match. I think Dragonite and Excadrill are really strong here. I think Mega Alakazam, obviously after it megas and gets that speed buff, has a great potential to sweep between Psychic and Dazzling Gleam here. Maybe Focus Blast as well for the Steelix. So I think as far as team building goes, there's just a lot of offensive threats that can't be handled by the Gengars. But Yeah, it's kind of a back and forth. I thought at first maybe the reason he went for extreme speed that first turn was because of it was like scarfed or banded or something, and ended up not being the case. So I would have just gone for outrage because there's no fairy types to worry about. Nothing really wants to take an outrage, or for something else. Extreme speed was probably not the right way to go about it. Stone Edge miss was unfortunate. I'm not sure why he went for Stealth Rocks twice. Maybe it's because he's expecting Rapid Spin. I would have gone for the Earthquake though, so hazard removal would have been gone. Soaking ends up taking out Steelix. Letting it go down like that when you have something like Vileplume though is a bit iffy on from my perspective. And you have Xatu with Magic Bounce or Defog, or both. Not coming in to get rid of the rocks or to stop the rocks or reflect the rocks with Magic Bounce. I'm not really sure. That was a really close hit right there. So it is unfortunate that it might have been a roll in that regard. But at this point, I mean, just Dragonite just puts in so much work here. And he goes for Extreme Speed, which was the right play there so he could get off some damage. At this point, though, you can't really do all that much. There's a lot of hacks that goes here with the Sleep Powder misses, but that's why I'm not a fan of Sleep Powder, because it's got terrible accuracy. So he's just striving back and forth to get that whilst taking damage from Fire Blast, which honestly Psyshock would have done more than Fire Blast since it's Grass Poison type. So I would have just gone for that or Psychic. But Fire Blast works too. I mean, it was unexpected, so. But then Alakazam comes in and sweeps the rest, so. As you can see here. I'm not sure if he was waiting to switch to Magic Bounce, but I think that was a good play in the sense that it was smart because Magic Bounce works out better than taking whatever Vileplume's ability was. Not that it really had an effect on the match, but I think it was just a nice touch. So, pretty clear-cut match in my opinion. So we'll go ahead and go on to the last match, which is between the Charmillionaires and the Minnesota Mucks. I really like the Charmillionaires team. The Mucks also are pretty good, but I think there's still the wall core issue. There's no real dedicated wall. Porygon's 2 is just super bulky, so I guess that could fly. Roserade's really specially bulky. Malamar can be physically bulky when set up. But overall, I like both teams. I think Tyrantrum puts in a ton of work here, though. A ton of work. So, we'll go ahead and start, I guess. And then, yeah, I don't know. I also kind of think that, like, Venusaur doesn't do a lot here. Nothing that it's particularly effective against. But maybe it's just for extra bulk, which I can totally understand. The Charmillionaires team is super bulky, especially in this scenario. I wouldn't have risked it. I know that he's been running Ice Beam on Porygon 2. I would have switched into Rotom to take the Ice Beam, because even on the off chance that it gets frozen, that's totally fine. It's a wall. So I would definitely have not let Tyrantrum go down, because it just puts in too much work, especially if it's Scarf, which I don't know if it was. But that was a cool move there. I'm pretty sure that was Hidden Power Psychic, which is hilarious, because if that is, like, I mean, it could have been Hidden Power Fighting, or Flying, or Ground, or something else that was super effective, but the way, I don't know if that would have done all that damage had it been like anything other than Hidden Power Psychic, which is a really nice play, because even though Malamar's Dark type and obviously it wouldn't work, who's going to predict Hidden Power Psychic? So I'm going to go ahead and say nice move. If that's not Hidden Power Psychic, just comment below and clarify that, but I think that was a really cool move there. Aerodactyl, unfortunately, just can't get past the bulk here. He does go for the Defog, which at this point I don't know if it matters all that much, especially since he can get rocks back up if he had it on Cobalion. That damage being taken from that, whatever it was, Sludge Bomb or Giga Drain, was a bit unfortunate. Although I think it still would have gone down to Icicle Spear or Ice Shard from Shell Smash Cloister. So surprisingly here, Malamar eats up this attack. I was really surprised. And so it goes down here. Signal Beam was a nice move to bring on Rotom. I think it's choiced. I'm not sure which. Calm Mind Cobalion was also really good. I think he got a bit too greedy though with the hidden power and everything. Yeah, I'm not sure if he brought the wrong hidden power, was expecting a switch, but it wasn't very effective obviously. But Roserade just completely walls Cobalion, which was pretty cool. So nice there. And then from this point it's just kind of a stall game, waiting for the right moment to switch, wearing down the PP on Roserade. It's just, that's how it happened. I was joking with Dan, since I'm not a huge fan of stall, that I was proud at the skill it took to execute this the way it did, but at the same time I was also really disappointed for him using hardcore stall strats. So as you can see, it seems like it's wearing him down, but at this point he's out of Giga Drains, and now he's been tricked into using Leech Seed. So bringing the trick was, I think, kind of the nail in the coffin, because he was not only not able to use Giga Drain, but now he is stuck with a Choice Scarf, and he can just continue to heal, just slowly wearing him down. As you can see, it just, for a while, it goes back and forth. It's possible on both ends throughout it that something could have happened on both sides to in the match, but there was just, the stall was too real. As you can see, it went down and Aromatisse went down, but at this point struggle just took effect, and again it got really close even with that. So really cool match, really interesting as far as what ended up working in the end, and some of the preparation that came into effect on both sides, especially Dan's team with Hidden Power Psychic and Signal Beam from Rotom and Trick and Calm Mind Cobalion. Just a lot of really interesting stuff, and it for the most part worked pretty well. So I guess that's it for this week though. I mean, we had some really good matches. They're all pretty straightforward. Again, I think that everybody's consistently improving and learning and prepping for their matches really effectively. So I hope you guys learn from what we talked about today, if there's anything to learn about. But either way, yeah, I'm looking forward to next week and seeing what other matches happen while I take a nice break because of my second bye. So without further ado, guys, keep an eye out for the next Sun and Moon Pokemon, competitive Pokemon discussion. That should go up soon. If you haven't checked out the first part, definitely check that out. It's more of a podcast, so I know it's long, but you should totally listen to it because there's a lot of really interesting stuff that are going to impact the meta once Sun and Moon are released, and Smogon is incorporating that stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.